In this video, I'm going to be talking about essential settings and add-ons I think everybody should be using, or at least know about. Starting with the very first setting, which I think everybody should use, is auto loot. When you click once, it immediately loots the item on the ground on the enemy. If you hit escape and you go to options, and in controls, the very first setting here, you can find auto loot and you can check it so that you just have to click the loot and it will grab all the loot with one click. The next option is going to be combine bags, which is just two options down below here. I recommend turning this on because when you open up your bags, you can get your bags to look like this. I don't have a bag add-on. This is the base game. This is exactly what the base game bags look like when you use that option. The other day I was streaming and somebody asked, how do you get quest items and things to highlight, like this thing over here? Why is it highlighted purple for me but not for them? You can even see there's one in the distance over there too. Now the setting is going to be found in the interface options, and if we go just below the nameplates into display, you'll see here outline mode for display. You can actually have this set to the furthest one, quest objectives, mouse over, and target, so it makes things highlight when you do any of those things. If this is disabled, this thing is very easy to miss. It just has a couple of sparkles on like it used to have, years ago before the update. And when you're flying around, it might be difficult to miss. That purple glow sometimes helps. At least for me, I can notice the purple a lot more than I can notice a few little sparkles, especially when I'm flying. This next one is to show other players in your groups by the color of their class. Like we know the tank is a paladin, we know the healer is a druid, we have a hunter and we have a shaman. And then of course me as a monk. Now, whether you like the setting or not, you can change it in your options by interface. And if we scroll all the way down to raid frames, here's where you'll be able to click display class colors so that you can see the colors of the class. If you don't want this on, you can see it's going to just make them green like this, which makes it hard to distinguish who or what everybody is. As a healer, having it as green is easier to track for healing. But if you're not healing, it's actually probably best to have it by class colors because it's always handy to know who's who. In the same topic over here on raid frames, there is display health text. Now, I highly recommend using health remaining. I cannot use anything but health remaining. I think by default it's on health percentage, so it says 100%. I don't like this option of 100% because it's a little too vague. You don't know if somebody has good gear, if they have bad gear. When you go to health remaining, you can immediately tell who has, a lot more gear than other people. And you tell this by how much HP you have. Like I've got almost 6 million. The hunter has 7.2, but hunters usually have higher health. The tank has 11.6 million. If you had to spot a player here and they only have 3 million, you would know that they're undergeared. And as a healer, you'll probably notice that they will take a ton more damage. So you have to focus on them a little bit more. The next setting is the self-highlight. I know this might be a little bit newbie sounding, but honestly, if you are raiding and you're finding yourself playing in groups of, big groups of people, especially if you're playing like this at, the most zoomed out option for raiding so that you can see the entire, battlefield or boss room, it can sometimes get really hard to see where you are, especially if you play a melee character and you're in the middle of absolute chaos and you can't see where your character's standing. Self-highlight is essentially going to give you this yellow kind of like glow to your character, as well as the circle around my body. There is a third option, and the way you change this is in your options. Then going to the combat tab under gameplay, you'll see self-highlight is over here, and you can select a multitude of options. So by default on off, it just looks like this, and your character just blends into everything. If you really want to know where your character is, I recommend using circle, outline, and icon, which is going to put a star above your head, which makes it so much easier to track your exact positioning if it's something you need, though I find the star is a little bit too unnecessary. Now, this next setting is something every pro player is using. If you're not using this, man, people might judge you. I'm not going to lie. They're going to judge you. Now, when you press A or D on your keyboard to go left or right, if your character instead just turns, you have a little bit of a problem. Now, the setting you should be using is going to your options, going to your key bindings, going to your movement keys here, and instead of using turn left and turn right, you want to use strafe left and strafe right. So strafe left A, straight right D. So it essentially changes your turning keys, and instead you will run left or right by, using those keys. This comes in handy, especially if you're a ranged character and you need to be running sideways instead of just turning, because turning slows you down. If you want to turn, you can always hold right click with your mouse and move your character and use any of those three keys, A, W, or D, to move your character in the direction you need to go very quickly. All right, so the last setting I want to talk about is going to be very brief. It's going to be the UI layout. I highly recommend using the default UI layout. I used to use add-ons like Bartender for a very long time, and I noticed recently that the default UI with the edit mode has so much power that you can create whatever you need without needing extra add-ons. And also you can save these layouts so that you can load them across different characters or even have different layouts for different styles. You'll notice in my edit mode, I have my player frame over here. I have my target frame over here. I have my focus frame over here. I have my party for dungeons over here. And you'll notice I am using the raid styled party frame. So it's not the big circles and like weird health bars. It's just like you saw in the dungeon earlier. You'll also be able to sort these by role so that the tank is at the top, then it's healer, and then DPS. Makes it so much easier to, see the group's dynamic. For my raid frames, I've got them over here into separate groups by vertical, so you can tell which group you're in. You can tell like the first 5 on the left over here are in group 1. The next 5 over here are in group 2. So when you're in a raid and somebody says group 1 purple, group 2 red, you know what group you're in and you know where you should be going because your name will be in the group here. You're also able to change the size of different things. You can put action bars and position them exactly the way you want. Here's my action bar settings. You can see I'm just using it like this. I like them a little bit smaller and out of the way. I've got like other little buttons I can press over here and other action bars that I don't highly prioritize, but they're buttons that I will often use, but I can just click when I need it, like hearthstones or and whatnot. Of course, this is something that's going to be specific to you and your playstyle, and I highly recommend playing around with it. All right, so let's talk about some add-ons that I recommend using. Now, if you're doing Mythic Plus dungeons, it is a no-brainer to use the Angry Keystones add-on. This is because it's just going to give you extra information, break down the percentage of the monsters that you need to kill still for, completing the dungeon. It just makes things a bit easier for tracking Mythic Plus. I don't play Mythic Plus a lot myself, but it is something that even I have to have on if I am going to do a Mythic Plus. The next add-on is going to take us to an auction place. So this is going to be Auctionator. Right, Auctionator lets you scan pretty much the whole auction house to see the price of things that are selling. For example, if I hover over things that you can sell in my bags over here, this item typically sells for 69 silver. This one over here sells for 17 gold. It is a great tool to use with the auction house, and it is a huge loss to not be using it if you are finding yourself selling stuff, which you should be doing. Now, the next add-on is possibly one of my favorites, if not the best add-on ever, because people ask me about this one quite often. And this is quite simply BetterCharacterPanel. This is going to give you information on your character screen here that you might not have realized you needed. For example, you can see it says in green text here, all the enchantments I have. If somebody doesn't have enchantments, it's going to instead list these in red. For example, if I open up an inspect window for some random player, you can see when it says no enchant, no enchant, no enchant, you know that this player is not going to be getting those extra damage boosts and extra stats out of their gear. And it's a great way to tell what you yourself might be missing. Like you don't know that you can have 2 gems in your neck, 2 gems on each rings. And these are things you can buy in the auction house. And you should have all of your enchantments for all of your pieces of gear to play the best that you can play. If you're trying to push hard content in the game, you are going to need to know that information and, have all of those enchants and stuff ready. The next add-on is super helpful, especially for healers, but it's also great for generic players to know about debuffs that are happening to people in their group, or as well as yourself. For example, I've got it on test mode over here. This is BigDebuffs. You can see I have Hex on me for this example. It's just pretend, it's just a test from the add-on. You can see how big this icon shows on my character, and it will even show on my target window. So if I select myself, you'll see here it shows 58 seconds, 57 seconds of Hex. You'll also see these debuffs on nameplates for enemies. As you can see over here, the Hex is showing on all of these different NPC monsters over here, and is a great way to track any of those effects too. So it's a very handy add-on. The next add-on is DBM, Deadly Boss Mods. This is an add-on that you probably already know about, but this one lets you know things that are happening in dungeons, raids. As you can see by the timers, unstable charge is going to go off in 6 seconds. This gives you an indication of, when things are going to be happening and how you should be playing. Now, you shouldn't take it for granted to do all the work for you. You should at least pay attention to, things that the boss is casting and doing anyway. but it is a really great tool to tell you like, oh, cool, interrupt, move, do this. You know, it kind of gives you little hints of how you should be playing. The next add-on is Details Damage Meter. This is this one right at the bottom of my screen over here. If I go into combat over here just to test it. So once you start damaging it with other players, it will start measuring your damage that you do compared to other players in your group. Like right now you can see I did 1.3, 1.2 million damage per second and a total of 10 million during that combat phase. You can also right-click the damage done section and search this by various different things, like how many interrupts people are doing, how much healing is being done. The next add-on is GTFO, and this one is great because it will shout at you every time you stand in a place that you should not be standing in. So if there is a big red fire ring on the floor and you hear this sound, you know that you should be moving your ass out of that, you know, area that you're standing in. It's essentially a warning to tell you to move, and it's great. The next add-on is called HandyNotes, and this is great for when you're first discovering an expansion or a map, right? So if I go ahead and I open up my map here for Kazalgar or the Isle of Dorn, you'll notice that my map has a few more icons than yours does if you're not using these add-ons. First off, you'll notice these treasure icons all over. Now, these are treasures that you can go ahead and loot, and this add-on is going to add these icons to your map so that you know where they are and where you should collect them. There's also skull icons for rare enemies that you can go ahead and defeat for different achievements or even finding extra loot and reputation for your renown for the different factions that you're playing in for the area. Now, this might conflict with other add-ons because another one that I'm going to tell you about has this very similar function. So in your map, you do have a button at the top right here for HandyNotes, the War Within. If you click this, you can actually track which ones you want to be shown. Rares don't show on the map. Treasures don't show on the map. If you want them on, great. If you don't want them on, that's how you take them off. All right, so now for probably my favorite add-on, the one that you've probably commented on this video before reaching this part of the video, is how am I moving my tabs across the screen and how am I scaling them, right? Like, how cool is this? There's an add-on that does this, that allows you to literally move or scale anything. This is an add-on called MoveAny. Now, MoveAny is a very powerful tool. If you want to move a window, you just hold left click anywhere in the window and you can just drag it around. If you want to scale it and make it bigger, you hold right click and you kind of just move to the bottom left or to the bottom right. It's a bit janky and weird sometimes the way it works, but this is how I've been using it myself to scale something. You can see the percentage is also shown there, how big it is compared to its typical size. The next add-on is called OmniCC, and this gives a cooldown timer for pretty much anything that has a cooldown on your game. So if I go ahead and I press a couple cooldowns over here, you'll see here it gets 29, 28 seconds and a 2 minutes on my Tiger. Essentially, it's just going to put better numbers to track when things are off of cooldown so that you know, cool, in 13 seconds, I can press that ability again. It's a small but effective add-on that helps a lot. The next add-on has to do with players' nameplates as well as enemy nameplates. Like you'll see here, my players that you see in my world have, you know, their names in the same color as their classes. I know this is a priest. I know this is a warrior. I know this is a evoker. That's a mage over there. There's a shaman riding the store mount. Now, when you type /plater, and you might have to watch a couple tutorials or something on this to see how this all works, but if you go to friendly player, you'll be able to use the use class colors. In fact, just look at all the options I have on my screen. I feel free to pause and change exactly to what I have. I might actually help you here with my general settings. I don't know if this changes anything, but this is what I'm using. Color and threat, I don't know if I changed anything there. Target, cost bar, level, scripting, I don't think I use that. Personal bar, I'm not actually using one right now. Enemy NPC, this might be something that I think has changed. Enemy player, friendly NPC, but the one for the players is definitely in the friendly player option over here. It also changes the plates of the enemies. You can see here, this is how their health bars look on my game, and it might be something that you want as well. It's something I've used for so long, I cannot not use plater nameplates, to be honest. I think these are perfect. The next add-on is RareScanner. Quite simple in the fact that it will let you know when a rare NPC is alive and near you, and it will let you target it as well as find it on the map. If you open up your map, it will put skull icons everywhere, much like HandyNotes did. That's why I say you're gonna have to use the option at the top right if you're using both of these add-ons, so that you don't have double the skull icons, because it can get really annoying. So what it's going to do is it's going to scan entities around you as you're exploring the map, and if it finds a rare NPC that's a part of those lists, it's going to make a notification on your screen, like this. Now I just have to find one that happens. There we go. Merc Spike, an NPC, a rare NPC. You can also use this to click it if you're near enough. Otherwise, open up your map and you should see it highlighting icon like this at the skull over there. So I know it's going to be around this area. And if you click it, it should target it if you get close enough. So once you get close enough, you can start spamming this icon and it will put a skull on its head to let you know where it is. You can see there it is over there. It's right there with the skull on its, nameplate. The next add-on is TomTom. Now, TomTom is immediately going to give you your coordinates for your current location. I put mine at the top left corner over here, just out of my way. You can use TomTom to go to coordinates that players share in the game. If somebody says, hey, rare enemy at 1232, you can type /way 1232, 12 space 32. And then when you press enter, you'll see this will actually put an icon to that location, as well as give you an arrow on your screen. I also put that at the top left of my screen to guide you to that spot. You'll see here, for me, it's actually going to be in the middle of the ocean of this area. So I guided myself to this spot in particular. You can actually change what this looks like. Mine is a purple ring. Yours is going to be a different icon. If you want to remove this location, all you got to do is just right click on it and click remove waypoint to get rid of it. The next add-on is WeakAuras. Now, WeakAuras is the reason why I feel like I do so much damage and I stay alive so well. So you probably noticed that there's this highlighted button next to my health frame here that's constantly loading every 9 seconds. This is a specific thing specific to monks. Essentially, this is a weak aura that tracks my Vivify, because every 9 seconds I can use it for free without having to stand still and cast. So if I move and cast it, you'll see instant heal, right? Instant heal. But if that timer is grayed out now, it now becomes a casting heal. So when I'm in the middle of combat or raiding and I need a heal on myself, or in PvP, I wait for it to be green and I know I can tap that button and I can immediately heal myself, like for 1,000,000 health right there. Because otherwise you would have to be looking at the top right of your screen to track this buff for when this buff is up, which is difficult. Of course, you are going to have to Google and search for weak auras for the class and the spec that you play, but it can entirely change and make your life so much simpler. And it's more than just what I showed you here. Other people use it for different things, like tracking when Belladar is going to spawn, or, making sure people don't click release in a raid. There are a ton of different weak auras, and it is a very powerful add-on. The next add-on is World Quest Tracker. You can see over here, when we go into Hellowfall right now, I have my world quests. I can go ahead and I can click them, and this will track them like this. Put them on the right-hand side so I can see, cool, they're in this location. The closest one is the top one, and it's just, I have to point to that red arrow. It's going to be this direction, almost in the form of a to-do list. The final add-on I'm going to talk about is one that you do have to pay for, and this is Zygor Guides. Now, Zygor is an add-on that allows you to level really, really easily. It does a whole bunch of other things. Essentially, it's going to guide you step by step through multiple different things. Dungeons, daily quests, event quests. There's even guides for trying to attain gold, level professions, finding unique mounts, pets, titles, achievements. But most commonly, people use it for leveling. So if you're going into leveling, right, essentially you're going to pick what you want to level through. So if you're doing an old expansion for Shadowlands because you're trying to do the Lore Master achievement, you'll see here it will actually give you step-by-step guides on where to go. It's also going to put an arrow on your screen guiding you to the closest portals to reach the location you need to go to. Sometimes it just takes the brain work out of leveling and allows you to just, autopilot. You can see here it's leading me exactly to where I need to go in the Shadowlands. This definitely makes your life easier, because sometimes you might not even know who you're supposed to be going to, who you're supposed to speak to next. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to speak to this guy to go to some place called Zereth Mortis. The only reason I was going here was for Transmog, to be honest. On the outside of the door, there's an NPC over here who has a quest that I need to pick up. It's going to immediately accept all the quests you need from him, and it changes to the next step, right? So it says go to this location over here, and it's just going to guide me through. Like, the next step is now to kill this dude over here. I kill this dude, it changes, it tells me to click the orb. So if you feel like doing a ton of leveling, I do recommend getting this add-on for at least like a month or so and do all your leveling, everything you need to do. It just makes you super productive in getting things done in terms of questing. And that's everything I recommend as essential for pretty much any player, at least to know that it exists. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching.